Okay. Greetings, everyone. Welcome to the rectory. We thought we'd do a change of scene today. Hope you're not too cooped up at home. I know it's hard teaching your kids. So while you're teaching your kids at home, here's a little teaching from your pastor, hopefully to feed you so you can feed your kids. And we're working on the Creed. So today is our second video on the Creed. We're still in that first part of the Creed talking about God the Father. So I believe in one God, the Father Almighty, creator of heaven and earth, of all things visible and invisible. And that's where we're going to focus today. Creator of heaven and earth, of all things visible and invisible. Exciting stuff today, and I want to take you deeper into what it means to be someone who believes that. Who believes that we have a creator, that we're not just accidents of the universe. Okay, so the first place I want to start is that part of that line that says, of all things visible and invisible. And what does that mean? Well, the visible part is kind of easy for us to understand, right? And I think for a lot of us, we think of, well, the Big Bang. And people who don't believe in God will say, well, you guys have to have faith. And a great response to that is, we think of the Big Bang and we say, well, if that atom was there and it exploded, well, who put the atom there? Right? And so you have faith that just happened to be there or something happened to be there. We have faith that there is a God and it makes more sense. Et cetera, et cetera. It's actually not the best argument for God's existence. There are much better ones. We're going to talk about one today. But we believe in that physical world. God made material things that are physical. But we also believe in the invisible. And that's what the Creed's getting at. The invisible, and what we really are getting at is non-physical, right? Things that don't have a physical being. And what are those? So there's two categories I want to hit on with that. The first one is the angels. So angels are beings that God created that have a spiritual existence, but not a physical existence. There are certain things in our world that have physical existence, but they don't have souls. For instance, rocks don't have souls. We're in the middle. We have both. We have physical existence and we have a spiritual existence. We have a soul, but we also have a body. So we're kind of in the meeting of the two. We're that kind of middle of the sandwich. And then the angels, right, are ones that have souls but not bodies. They have a spiritual existence. Okay, that's clear enough. But I also want to get you to think a little deeper. That God also made things that have a non-physical existence that we know have to exist, but they don't exist physically. And these are things that aren't persons, but I want to talk about what Plato would call forms. What does this mean? Well, there are certain things that exist, and they have to exist in a way that's not physical. So a form, for instance, would be like the form of triangularity. And so all of us know what a triangle is. And we can say, well, that's triangle and that's triangle. But imagine if all the triangles that physically exist, if they stopped existing. A triangle would still be a three-sided enclosed object that's on the same plane. Right? And hopefully that definition wasn't terrible if you're a mathematics kind of person, or get these things better than I do, but I think that's about right. But anyway, a triangle, that concept and that form of what a triangle is, would exist even if all the physical ones went out of existence. So that's a triangle has to have an existence that's not just a triangularity, that's not just physical. Also, it's not just mental. It's not just an idea in our minds, because if we stopped existing as intelligent creatures, a triangle would still be a triangle. So the same is true of circles. The same is true of numbers, right? In any universe, 2 and 2 is always going to be 4. It doesn't matter if there's people who exist to know 2 and 2 is 4. It doesn't matter if there are 4 things in the universe. 2 and 2 is a necessary truth. So that is what we call a form. And there are other forms. There are forms like flatness is a form, or our human nature is a form. Forms are things that have an existence that isn't purely material, that isn't material. Okay, so God created those things. And in the history of the church, one of the cool things that happened, and in the history of philosophy, is that we began to understand that those things were ideas in the mind of God. Right? Why do these things exist? They don't exist physically, but why are things the way they are? Einstein wrestled with some of this stuff in his own lifetime. Why is the universe the way it is? Amazing things. So those are some of the things we mean when we say God created all things, visible and invisible. Okay, now I want to jump just quickly to just the idea of God as creator. And this is so cool. I want to share this with you. This is a beautiful spiritual truth as well as an intellectual truth. So what do we mean when we say God is creator? We tend to think of that as something that happened at the beginning of time. And there's truth to that. But St. Thomas Aquinas, along with many others, really shows us that God did not just create things once and then stop being involved. But actually, we believe, and this is amazing, and this will fill you with joy, that in a tough time, God loves you so much. And what I want to show is that creation is something that continues. Meaning that none of us could exist at any moment, and nothing that exists could exist unless God holds it in existence at this very moment. And so right now, if you're like, oh my gosh, it's a scary time, does God love me? Yes, he does. Nothing can exist unless God holds it in existence. If you want some deep reading on this, as I know you do, I know you want deep reading. So a guy named Ed Feser, a convert to Catholicism, brilliant philosopher, 2 books. One's called The Last Superstition. The other one is called 5 Proofs of the Existence of God. 2 great books, not easy reads. They are dense. If you have not studied metaphysics and philosophy, it's going to really challenge you in the way you think. Okay, but Feser helped me to understand St. Thomas's understanding of this. And an easy example would be this. So imagine that you and I are looking and we see a train. And the train's moving. You know, sometimes I drive and I'll be on Santa Fe going into Denver. And there's a railroad crossing just past Alameda. And whenever I get stuck there, it's like, oh, it's so hard. And the buildings are set up in such a way that you can't see very far laterally. You can't see to the left or the right. And so oftentimes you can't see how long that train's going to be. So I can't see the beginning of the train, I can't see the end. All I can see is that the train cars are moving in front of me. Now, what St. Thomas wants to say to us is that when you're looking at that train, you know that those train cars can't be moving by themselves, right? They can't. Just the box cars don't have the power to move on their own. Something has to be pushing them or pulling them. And so we know that that has to have something's pushing or pulling those train cars. And so just like we can look at that and we can say, well, something's pulling or pushing it, similarly with our existence, none of us has the power to exist unless something else is working to hold us in existence. So just like those train cars, right, depend on something else to pull them, your life, you can't exist, for instance, without oxygen. But oxygen can't exist without hydrogen. And we can get down into the way that the different particles, work and all the chemistry and the physics of that. But the point is that everything that you and I have ever encountered depends on something else to hold it in existence. Not in the past, but right now. Right now, there are probably 50 different things that have to exist for me to exist at this very moment. And if they stopped existing, I couldn't exist. But if I'm being held in existence by those things, what if those things are just like another car in that train? And the point is that eventually you've got to get to something that's pulling the train. And what Christians say when we say we believe in God, the creator of heaven and earth, and of all things, one of the things that that means for us is that God didn't just create us in the past. Right now, his love, and this is so cool, his love is holding you in existence. Nothing could exist if God did not will it to exist. That's an amazing truth. And I want to finish today by calling you to an act of faith there. Right? The creed begins with, I believe. Right? Credo. God is not just that divine watchmaker that the deists believe in. God's your Father who loves you and who holds you in existence. With the great trial of our time right now, we can forget about that. And it's hard for us sometimes to have faith. But our intellects help us in this moment. When we look at the world and we see how good it is, and we can come rationally to understand that something has to hold us in existence, and that thing is God. And so God's creation is ongoing. And so today, what a joyful thing. What a great thing that God didn't just create me in the past and now he's sorrowful that he did that. It's not the truth. God created the angels. He created the forms. He created all things that we know of. And he still loves them. He loves them today. He holds us in existence today. He is truly the God of the living. So Lord, today we believe in you. We trust in you. We thank you for our existence. That you, God our Father, are truly a creator. Thanks for tuning in. We will see you guys all next time.